Runners will be started off very shortly. Alright, and they are off. So one of the first things that our racers are going to do, we are going to grab a hammer from this weapon shop, and then we are going to change some settings in our configurations, particularly turning on memory cursor. And as you can see, both of our runners now are glitching that hammer into the knight's armor. This is the equipment glitch, which is unique to the PSP version of this game. It allows us to create items from essentially nothing that we're not supposed to have yet by kind of a abuse of the memory cursor and how items are associated within the memory of the game. Allows us to break this game wide open with all of this overpowered equipment, so we'll be very, very overpowered very, very quickly. With those knight's armors on, our runners will not be taking a whole lot of damage from these random encounters, so they don't have to worry too much about dying. And after a little bit of plot progression now, we are going to make our way up to Cornelia Castle. Sawney being the first one out, making almost halfway there to the Chaos Shrine. If you missed that first instance of the equipment glitch with the hammer and into the knight's armor, we'll have another one very, very shortly. Sawney getting the one tile encounter right before the Chaos Shrine. Alright, and we are in the Chaos Shrine now. So we are going to make a slight detour to the left here, and then this will, we're going to pick up a leather cap in this chest, and then we're going to use that leather cap to glitch this into the Judgment Staff. So the Judgment Staff was a post-game intended item that was added to one of the bonus Soul of Chaos dungeons that were added in the GBA version, which are also present in this game here. This Judgment Staff is not only a lot stronger than any weapon we could buy here in this early game, it has the unique property of, if we use it as an item in combat, it allows us to cast the 8th level black magic spell Flare. So between Knight's Armor, we have our defense, we have Judgment Staff for weapons, which will carry us through this good early game. For right now, though, we are just going to whack Garland with these light bulbs. And that is Garland down for Sawney. GreenCleric starting his Garland fight not terribly far behind. This early game will be very, very close between our runners there. About 15 seconds to Garland's destruction there. Nothing too unusual for this early game. And with that, we just have a little bit of plot progression we have to go through now. So by rescuing the princess, we have proven ourselves to the king that we are the Warriors of Light of Legends, so he's going to commission a bridge will be built for us. And then before we leave, we're going to talk to Princess Sarah to get this loot. Very important that you talk to her. If you try to leave without grabbing the loot, you will be called back by her, and this will cause an additional little mini cutscene where we have to walk back to her. It's waste maybe about 5 extra seconds. But here we have our bridge being built now, and then once we have that, get through this little bridge cutscene, we'll be able to make our way through the rest of the game in this early game. So while we're waiting here a little bit more about this tournament, the tournament Total Chaos comes from the fact that for this version of the Final Fantasy I, the PSP version, we are very, very reliant on getting good RNG. As far as our encounters and internal orders are concerned there's not a whole lot we can do to manipulate the RNG in our favor. So we just have to roll with whatever the game throws at us. This is not a randomized version of the game. The game is random enough as is without us randomizing it further. So Sawney, the first one to make it to the bridge. Normally there would be a little bridge cutscene there that would give a bunch of plot. It's about a minute and a half of sitting there doing nothing. Fortunately, in PSP, we can just skip it. Once we're across, we will make our way to the town of Provoca, which will be our next quest progression area. Alright, so now that we're past the bridge, we are subject to the random encounters. This is where things will really start mattering. You'll notice that Sawney is getting a wolf pack right now. This is kind of an example of bad RNG, what we don't want to see here in this early game. These wolves are very, very agile and a little difficult to run from. They can waste a lot of time. GreenCleric on your left-hand side of your screen there, you'll notice is taking a slightly different path. What he's trying to do is actually minimize the number of forest tiles that he walks through. Encounter chances are different depending on what tile you walk on. Forests have the highest chance to generate an encounter. So Cleric trying to minimize those forest tiles that there. Sawney opting to just push straight through. But both of our runners now into Provoca. We're going to see a slight detour in routing here. Both of our runners are running the Lust Dagger route for the composition, but Cleric, you'll notice, is going to run straight to and do this pirate fight, while Sawney is going to detour to do some shopping first. GreenCleric earlier did some shopping in Cornelia, but Sawney has done his shopping now, and Cleric is going to use, and we're going to use that Judgment Staff on this pirate fight. So the reason for this variation is because for the Lust Dagger, there's two different versions, either the White Mage route or the Black Mage route, depending on who your primary spellcaster is. And for GreenCleric, because he's running the White Mage version of the route, he wants to see if he can get a leather shield drop from these pirates, which he will need for the equipment glitch later for his White Mage. I wasn't able to catch if he was to get it there, but by beating the pirates, we get the ship. Okay, Cleric is detouring to buy that leather shield, so unfortunately did not get it there, so losing maybe about 2 or 3 seconds there to go and grab that. But otherwise, our racer is pretty much neck and neck now that the pirates are beaten. So we have attained the ship from beating the pirates, and we're going to make our way now down south and west to the town of Elfheim? Town? Kingdom? It's a king town. And again, to another instance, there are slightly different paths. You'll notice Sawney stopped a little bit earlier and then walked on all those dock tiles. GreenCleric just chose to park the boat as far as he could. Dock tiles don't generate any encounters. They're safe squares. So we all should be fine for that. GreenCleric is going to take a little bit of a detour now to grab some gold needles. This will be a safety item that will be used in the Earth Cave later on to cure the petrification status. Sawney didn't quite go grab those gold needles yet. He will at some point, though, in the run later. Also, another benefit of quickly ducking through either the castle or the town there, it allows us to reset our encounter chances down to the default setting for there. So with that, our runners are going to make their way now onto the Marsh Cave. And again, we just have to kind of roll with what the game gives us here. There's not a whole lot we can do because of all these forest tiles that are present. We just have to roll with the game, with the punches, as it were. So both of our runners coming up. Cleric, the first one into the Marsh Cave now. Marsh Cave does have a low encounter rate compared to other cave dungeons there. Of course, as I say that, Cleric gets an encounter, and he also gets the ambush there, so Commentator's Curse there. But both of our runners are going to dive down into the Marsh Cave. We are coming here in order to grab the crown, which is in one of the locked chests in this little cave dungeon here. So if you were to kind of do this casually and you were to explore around a bit, you would the directions to this area would be from a king who is just sitting on what appears to be a ruined castle. He's saying that the crown was stolen from him. I'm sure that a shady king sitting in the middle of a ruined castle can totally be trusted without any repercussions whatsoever. Sawney getting poisoned, but waiting until he has a chance to open the menu before he cures that off. Cleric, meanwhile, not far behind, now also on the Piscademon. So this is a trap tile that's guarding this chest. A trap tile is a forced encounter square. When you step on it, you will be getting an encounter. For this one, it's 2 to 4 Piscademons. 2 Piscademons is fine for as long as no one dies for Sawney. He would have ideally liked to see 3 or 4, because with that Judgment Staff, we can just eliminate these Piscademons no problem. And for Sawney specifically, because he's running the Black Mage version of the Lust Dagger route, there is a level threshold that the Black Mage needs to hit by the time we beat our Astos, which is our next upcoming boss, now that we have this crown. GreenCleric doesn't have to worry about this, because, as previously mentioned, GreenCleric is running the White Mage version of the route, and will be using his White Mage to cast spells with items instead. The Black Mage version, we care about levels because you need to be a certain level before you can learn different levels of magic. So for Fyra and Thundara, which we will our runners will need at some point, the Black Mage would need to be level 8. But it's not a huge critical thing to buy it early, because through this early game we mostly are just going to be using the Judgment Staff and whacking things with it, or casting Flare with it. The Fyra and Thundara spells become much more relevant once we get out of this little early game session. Both of our runners out of the Marsh Cave now, making their way up north to the Western Keep. Stepping on as many plain grass tiles as possible to try to minimize encounters. And we are in the Western Keep now, so we hand the crown over to this king, and it turns out, oh no, this king is the Dark Elf Astos. Who'da thunk? So Astos was trying to steal the crown from us. So we're going to do a combination of physical attacks with our melee characters and Judgment Staffs with our Black Mage and White Mage. This is because that the damage range is affected by the intelligence stat of our mages, and the White Mage is kind of subject to a range based on whether or not she's hit those intelligence growths on those level ups there. So by physical attacking with the Warrior and the Thief, you kind of guarantee that just in case, like as Sawney did with his White Mage, the White Mage low rolls, you can just guarantee end the fight in one round. So good RNG for both of our runners did not get the death spell from Astos. Everyone able to get full EXP. So with Astos down, we have the Crystal Eye now, which is our next quest progression item, and we're going to continue on this early game fetch quest. So our runners now are going to make their way back to their boat, and we have to sail north for a bit to deliver this eye to the Witch Matoya. And at this point, while our runners are very much neck and neck, it will largely depend upon what kind of encounter luck we see between our runners. You'll notice Sawney, having this Warg Wolf pack here, opted to just use the Judgment Staff with the mages in order to just guarantee this fight ends in one round. So pulling a little... This is going to be a lot of back and forth between our runners for this particular portion right here. No lead is safe in this game until Chaos is down. And both of our runners are very, very skilled at this racing game here. So if game 1 was any indicator of how much RNG and the level of skill that our runners have in this game, this is going to be a very, very close series. So Sawney is going to take a brief detour into Elfheim. He's going to grab Fyra and Thundara for his Black Mage, and then also going to grab the Gold Needles while he's here. GreenCleric will pull slightly ahead here, not a whole lot. GreenCleric had already bought the Gold Needles earlier before going into the Marsh Cave there, but again, this is a very, very minor deviation. It's not going to affect the race as a whole too much. They would have had to have they have to come back to this area eventually anyway, because a lot of the Final Fantasy 1 being an NES era RPG has a lot of back and forth early game questings up to it. So those Sahagins are probably the one thing that we don't want to see on here. Those are very, very agile. Sonny able to very, very luckily get away from those. GreenCleric now at Matoya's cave, and we have a brief cutscene where we have Matoya stumbling around that she can't see because she has lost her crystal eye. So we are going to return that crystal eye from that we got from Astos to her, and in exchange we are going to get this Jolt Tonic. These brooms are doing everything they can to try and get in GreenCleric's way. Alright, but didn't get broomed by the door, so what's it called? That's the important part. Sonny now at Matoya's cave. And then GreenCleric will be making his way back to the boat in order to deliver this this Jolt Tonic to the Elven Prince, which will be our next part of the quest, this little quest chain we're on. GreenCleric gain a double shark Sahagin encounter. This one might be a little bit difficult to run from. We'll see what happens here. Tried to do the full flee. This might be an opportunity for Sonny to make up a little bit of ground, but able to get away. These sea encounters and encounters in general will be a little bit easier to run away from very shortly. After we deliver this Jolt Tonic, we are going to have our next instance of the equipment glitch. So GreenCleric, the first one into Elven Castle now. We're going to take that Jolt Tonic, give it to this Prince's aid. And with that, we are going to awaken the Elven Prince. Yes, the Jolt Tonic is the herb, if you are familiar with the NES term. So once, with the Prince now awakened, we will obtain the Mystic Key, and with this Mystic Key, we now have a lot of doors open to us, quite literally. We are going to briefly exit this castle and re-enter it. It saves on overworld steps, and then we're going to make our way to the back of the castle, and we are going to unlock this little armory. We're going to grab, at minimum, this Mithril Hammer, and we're going to use that Mithril Hammer to glitch the Thieves' Armlets into our inventory. So the Thieves' Armlets, in addition to being an upgrade from the Knight's Armor we are currently wearing, because they were a bonus game item that were added to the bonus dungeons in later remakes, they have a lot of better stats on them, and one of those stats is that the Thieves' Armlets give you a passive +5 bonus to your agility. We just stacked 3 Thieves' Armlets onto our party, so our party members have +15 agility. This ensures that we will go a lot sooner in the turn order, and it also greatly improves our chances to flee. So our runners will be fleeing from anything they don't necessarily have to fight. If you do see our runners running, fighting anything, it's generally an unrunnable encounter or a fringe case where the enemies are still slightly hard to run from. Sawneyrath also picked up a bronze gloves and is using that to glitch it into the Sage's Staff, which is a item which boosts intelligence for the mages there. GreenCleric, meanwhile, on your left-hand side of the screen, made his way to Cornelia Castle, went around the back there, grabbed the nitro powder from the chest, and specifically for GreenCleric's route, whereas Sonny detoured to grab the bronze gloves while grabbing the Mithril Hammers, GreenCleric grabbed the Mithril Knife. This is going to be used later on in the run so that GreenCleric can glitch another item to cast black magic spells instead of having to buy the spells. So you notice even, with Sahagin encounters, excuse me, with Sahagin encounters, now that we have those Thieves' Armlet, our runners are fairly confident in their ability to run from them. So instead of opting to fight them, they're just going to issue flee commands with all of their characters. With that nitro powder in hand, GreenCleric is now making his way into Mount Duger, which is where the dwarves reside. And this will be basically the end goal of this early game fetch quest, which will open up a majority of the world map to us. A lot of this early game, we are just kind of locked in this little 3-town area. Well, I guess 4 if you want to count the cave. So we hand that nitro powder to this NPC Narek. Narek is a little bit I'll call him an enthusiastic miner. Because he wants to open up a canal to open up free access to Cornelia, Elfheim, and Peroka and the rest of the world. And so he believes the efficient way to do that is to just completely collapse this entire land bridge with everyone still inside the dwarf cave. We can skip that there, but now that entire landmass has just sunk into the ocean. And we have the canal open to us now. So we don't need anything else in this dwarf cave. We are just going to leave. Gonna get out of here before any dwarves start questioning who possibly could have given Narek that nitro powder, which possibly started flooding their home. I don't know. We're warriors on an adventure off to save the world. So back in our boat, we're going to sail through that canal, and we're going to make our way to the town of Melmon. In the original NES version, Melmon was a very, very scary place to be because, for plot reasons, Melmon does not have an item shop or a clinic which you can use to revive your party members. In remakes, it's not nearly as dangerous because we have quality of life item changes and the ability to save anywhere. But for the PSP version specifically, Melmon is a very, very important place because we get to buy steel gloves here. And with those steel gloves, we're going to glitch the Barbarian Sword into our party's inventory. Cleric is going to glitch the Mage's Staff while he's doing this little menuing here. The Mage's Staff will be what he uses to cast Fyra instead of having the Black Magic spell on his Black Mage. We're going to use that as a item in combat, similar to how we use the Judgment Staff. And with those Barbarian Swords now glitched onto the Warrior and the Thief, we are going to make our way to the Earth Cave, which is our first major dungeon of the game. So let's see what Sawneyrath does here. What's it called? Sonny is a little bit behind, but okay, yep, he is pausing, so he is doing what I think he's doing. So Sawneyrath is opting to do a 15 puzzle. So a little bit about the 15 puzzle minigame in Final Fantasy. This is a minigame that exists on the ship, and what you runners are opting to do with if they choose to do this is they want to try to go for second place on the 15 puzzle because in the remake specifically, there is a 1 in 6 chance of getting an item known as an emergency exit. This is a consumable item which will take you instantly out of a dungeon, and we need it for second place here. So Sonny just waiting. Got any elixir? Not quite this time. So that is a 30-second investment that's just added to how much Sonny is behind. That's okay. With good encounter luck, Sonny is still able to close the gap, but it just afforded GreenCleric just a little bit of a lead going here down into the Earth Cave. So GreenCleric taking that safety save on Earth Cave B3 because this area is very, very scary. There's a lot of undead enemies which can paralysis lock you. There are Pisca demons, which we previously saw back in the Marsh Cave. Those are still an unrunnable encounter. You have the cockatrices, which we bought those gold needles for. They can petrify you. There is just a lot of bad in general on this floor. So safety save on Earth Cave B3 is completely understandable, especially in a race setting. Our runners want to be able to ensure that they can finish out this race. And with that, GreenCleric is now at the Vampire, and we will have our first instance of demonstrating the power of the Barbarian Sword. So I briefly touched on the Barbarian Sword that we glitched into our inventory, but the Barbarian Sword was an item that was added to beating the strongest version of the Superboss Chronodia. In the PSP version, as you'll notice, it is a very, very strong weapon. The Barbarian Sword has a 125 base attack, and as a bonus gives you a passive plus 15 to your strength. So anything that swings a Barbarian Sword will be swinging very, very hard. Normally, we would not be able to put this on the Thief because it is a Knight Warrior exclusive item, but because of that equipment glitch, we can glitch it onto our Thief's inventory and so combining the Thief's natural agility with the Barbarian Sword, the Thief and later on the Ninja is the highest damage dealing party member in this game. which is why we need him for this party composition. So GreenCleric is backtracking out of B3 now as Sawneyrath is on B3, making his way to Vampire. And this is this backtrack right here is why some runners choose to go for that emergency exit consumable item. It's because it saves time on this backtracking here. Sonny in a little bit of a scary position here because as getting ambushed, that one there, and that's actually okay. He got very, very lucky. So the warrior is actually one of the worst ones to stay up because he's the one most likely to be targeted, but was able to dodge the paralysis and get that judgment staff off in time. So didn't avoided the paralock there, but that will expand GreenCleric's lead just a bit further. Sonny also opted to not safety save on B3. But he has made it to the Vampire. Meanwhile, GreenCleric is now out of the Earth Cave and making his way over to the Giant's Cave. So after we beat the Vampire, we picked up a Star Ruby in the chest behind him. This is our next plot progression item we need to unlock the path in this Giant's Cave. And then we will be able to talk to Sarda the Sage, who is on the other side of this cavern. And we'll get an item from him which will allow us to complete the Earth Dungeon. Again, because Final Fantasy I was a NES-era RPG to kind of expand out the game in order to ensure that you could got more playable hours out of it. You have a lot of these back and forth fetch questing moments here. If we could, we would really like to, we would want to try to complete the Earth Cave in one trip. Unfortunately, because of this little detour, we have to go down 3 floors and then backtrack out partway. Sonny dodging another undead encounter paralock. Meanwhile, GreenCleric has now made it to Sarda the Sage and is picked up the Earth Rod. These ambushes are not helping Sonny with this little deficit that he's in. Those ambushes are just going to slowly bleed more and more time. But again, Sonny is not out of this race yet. He can still claw it back from here. The RNG in this game is such that no lead is truly safe, especially when you start getting to runners like GreenCleric and Sawneyrath, who are very, very knowledgeable of the for this game here, knowing what to do. They have all of their strategies planned out in their head. So if they see a particular encounter, they know what to do when they see it, and they know like what risks they are willing to take. So we'll see here. Depending on the encounter luck as well, we could very, very easily see this gap close up and leads change. So Sonny had a little bit of a rough B3, but it looks like B2 is being a little bit kinder to him. Should be able to make it out of this Earth Cave without too many issues. And meanwhile, Cleric is trying to make his way back to the Earth Cave so he can complete it out on that dive there. Alright, so Sonny is now out of the Earth Cave, and GreenCleric now runners gonna high-five each other. And then GreenCleric will continue on now into the Earth Cave. We are going to full clear this dungeon this time now that we have that Earth Rod in our inventory. The game kind of demonstrating right now why this is called Total Chaos, with just in just one factor, this encounter luck between our runners. These, like, if you were trying to push down a very, very low time for a PB attempt, a lot of these encounters would seriously slow you down, and kind of depending on where you were at Lich, you'd kind of have to make a judgment call with if you had this many encounters, do you want to try continue this out, or do you want to just call an early reset? But in this race scenario, our runners have to push through. Even though this is a best of 5 series, both of them at 1-1. Whoever wins this game has the advantage of match point going into game 4. So pressure is on for both of these runners. Every single win matters here. They need to do everything they can to ensure that they can finish this race. So much of the same thing earlier. GreenCleric took that safety save on B3 again, and is just trying to make his way back to the back of Vampire's Cavern now. That little bat getting in his way. Oh, I guess one thing I can talk about here. So you'll notice that Cleric is purposely keeping his warrior and his thief HPs low. This is actually for setup a little bit later on because we need to temporarily dirt nap those two party members. With the Knight's Armors on, our party as a whole isn't... Oh, actually, excuse me, not Knight Armors, Thieves Armlets on. As a whole, we don't have to worry too much about eating damage with this party composition there. But the main people we want to keep healthy are the mages for this early portion. For the Lich fight upcoming specifically, by and large, we don't have enough HP to survive Lich's first spell, Blizzara, if he decides to cast it. So on this Lich fight, we'll likely see another safety save out of both of our runners, just so that they can resort to that reset, take that reset if, you know, things go south. Alright, so Cleric now on Earth Cave B3, has made it to Vampire's floor. Sawney about a little over two floors behind now, just entering B3. There is the safety save for Cleric, so he can resort to that just in case Lich decides to be, well, Lich. There's really not a whole lot of other words to describe that. Well, actually, excuse me, there are plenty of words to describe it, but this is a PG-13 stream. So this is the Lich. We are going to swing our Barbarian Swords at him. That is a low roll from the Thief, but that is a very nice crit from the Warrior, so we're able to get that 1200 HP out of Lich before Lich even takes a turn. So that is a good first try Lich for Cleric. At about maybe 3240, 3245. Sawney just getting hammered with encounters there because he's trying to claw back into this race. Again, though, as long as he can avoid any undead paralysis locks or any petrification, he can still make up the time and come back into this race here. There's still plenty of other opportunities for our runners to make up time with each other, or even lose time if they're in the lead. But Cleric does have the advantage coming out of Earth Cave now. Alright. So with the Lich defeated, we now have beaten our first major boss, and we have restored light to the Crystal of Earth. With Lich defeated now, we trigger a bunch of overworld flags. This will allow us now to go to Crescent Lake and pick up our next overworld progression item, the Canoe. And then, kind of the intended order, if you're in a more casual playthrough for this one, would be follow the instructions of the NPC that are given to you. The NPC says, "Here, take this canoe, go through this long, winding river maze to the volcano, go fight the Fiend of Fire, Merilith, and then come back through that same winding river maze before going on to the next destination, which is another long winding river maze to go to this very, very scary ice cavern to get this little floating rock, which will allow you to get a floating boat." That's slow and inefficient, so we are just going to temporarily skip going to the volcano. We are going to get that canoe, and then we are just going to go to the ice cavern to get the airship, which will give us our fastest form of overworld travel and allow us to do some other things which will benefit us in the long run, such as class change. Sonic getting a little bit turned around in Earth Cave B4, but able to carry that. Oh, okay, this is what we don't want to see. Cockatrice Ambush is bad. Okay, so he's safe now because for the moment there, okay, is opting to run. Only one party member needs to stay up, but the more people that get petrified, the scarier that gets. Sonny playing very, very risky right now to try and make up time in, what's it called? To catch back up. Able to make it to, Lich, gonna petrify us. Oh, Sonny is not safety saving. Okay, so he is all in on here to try and make up some time. Meanwhile, Cleric has made it to Crescent Lake. Oh, that is unfortunately Blizzard from Lich. Ugh. So that is a forfeit from Sawneyrath there. So GreenCleric will have to just has to finish out the race now in order to record the win here. Win for this game, game 3. Okay, so to catch up on what GreenCleric has been doing now in Crescent Lake, we bought the Mithril Gloves and the Mithril Axe, and we're using that to glitch the Black Garb into our inventory, which will give us a even greater agility boost from the Thieves' Armlets. We're also putting Lust Daggers onto our mages' inventories, and I am joined by Sawneyrath now.
That was expected to happen considering how much garbage happened throughout that part of the run.
No, so, I feel for you, man. That Earth Cave was not pretty at all with the amount of encounters you got there.
It wasn't just Earth Cave. It was 9 encounters to Marsh. It was 7 encounters to Dwarf Cave. Like, literally, I had a bunch of 2-step, 3-step, even 1-step encounters. There was no point in safety saving at Lich because I was already 3 minutes behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you gotta risk it for the biscuits sometimes, but like that's just unfortunate that Lich got that turned in. That was a good roll on the Thief too. That had a very, very good chance of just one-shotting him right there.
It was really close, and it would have been nice to see the one shot, and if I had gotten a crit, that would have happened. But I knew, just with how that run was going, no. Just no. And my only saving grace was going to be the emergency exit. That was literally my only saving grace. I mean, I don't know how Green keeps doing it, but barely any encounters throughout most of the beginning of the run. And then I'm just getting all the encounters. I bleed time. And then I get to Lich a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes behind without emergency exit. With emergency exit, I think yesterday I was 20 seconds behind and then flipped to 20 seconds ahead. It's infuriating. I mean, it's RNG, but this level of RNG, especially coming in now, is absolutely infuriating.
No, yeah, with every little thing mattering to try and clutch out these wins in this best of 5. Yeah, I can completely understand how it can be very, very frustrating, especially when it's out of your control, such as like the RNG in this game is.
Now, doing the puzzle, I did laugh at getting the elixir, because that actually would have come in handy later, but this run had to make it to later.
Right.
There's still 2 more games potentially, so we'll see if tomorrow goes any better, and if not, then this run's been fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, what's it called? Semifinals top 8 is actually wait no top
4.
Top 4. That's right. Yeah, I was like, where are we in the bracket right now? Top 4 is nothing to what's it called? Nothing to be ashamed of for a finish, especially in a tournament as random as this. So, I wish you best of luck on game 4 to tie it up and bring it back for game 5.
I appreciate it. Hopefully tomorrow goes better and I don't get garbage encounters again like I did tonight. But with how the last 3 runs have been encounter wise, I'm really doubting it now. I'm really doubting it.
No, but I totally get. I totally feel you, man. It's really hard to see there.
So we'll see how tomorrow goes.
Yeah, but thank you for stopping. Yeah, thank you for stopping by.
I appreciate it. I will see y'all tomorrow.
Yeah. Right. So, thank you very much to Sawneyrath for stopping in for a brief post-game interview there. They're very unfortunate to see that Lich fight there, and I wish him best of luck for game 4 to tie it back up. Okay, so to kind of catch up on what GreenCleric was doing, so we've made it to the ice cave, and we are now on the eye trap tile. So what Cleric is doing right now is you'll notice his warrior and his thief are down. This will allow the EXP from the evil eye that Cleric is fighting to be split evenly between just the mages now. So the mages are getting a greater portion of EXP than they normally would if all 4 party members are up. This is a trap tile, which means that we can repeatedly step on and off of this tile in order to fight this evil eye over and over again. And with the amount of EXP that we're getting, we're getting a level about every 1 to 2 eyes. And what we're targeting for is about level 17, 18 on our mages there. This is so that by the time we clear Citadel of Trial for the Clash Change and beat the Fiend of Fire Merilith, this will allow us to learn Hilara and Teleport, which we need to be level 19 for in order for our mages to learn them. This is also a good benefit as well because it gives some HP for our mages, which will give them greater overall survivability later on in the late game. Mages in the early game especially don't have terribly great HP growth, while white mage less so, but the black mage needs as much help as he can get in terms of making sure that we have HP to survive later fights. We'll get items that can kind of cover any shortcomings, but any help that we can get in this early game is appreciated. So GreenCleric at level 18 now. Looks like we'll be opting to either get a little bit of extra EXP or might be going all the way to level 19. Okay, so got the extra eye there on level 18 and has now brought the thief back up. Oh, actually, I realized why Cleric might be doing what he's doing here. So Cleric in game 2 had an unfortunate thing happen where his mages weren't quite at the level EXP that they needed to be and lost a couple of minutes to having to make up the experience. Was able to make a good heads-up improvisation, but it did set him quite far behind there. So Cleric taking the extra safety to ensure that those mages will be at level 19 and that won't happen again. But now we have made our way out of the ice cave, and we are going to make our way back to the boat so that we can obtain our airship. You'll notice also we brought the thief back up now. The thief we want to funnel EXP into as well because, as previously mentioned, the thief with his natural agility and the barbarian sword becomes the best damage dealing character in this game for the PSP version. The warrior we can leave down longer. The warrior naturally gains a lot of HP through levels, has the most guaranteed HP growths of all classes in this game, and additionally is mostly in the party to facilitate the equipment glitch, having the widest access to different weapons and armor. Because a prerequisite of the equipment glitch is that we need to have someone that can equip the normal equipment before we glitch it onto someone else. So Cleric has made it his way to the Ryokan Desert now, and will be using that lava stone that we picked up in the ice cave. in order to raise the airship from the desert. And now we have an airship, which will, as long as we are in the air on the airship, we don't have any encounters in the overworld. We have our fastest form of overall overworld movement, and we have full access to the overworld now because there are certain areas that we cannot get to unless we're in the airship. So with this airship now, we are going to sail south and a little bit west, and this will allow us to park our airship in out here in the seemingly in the middle of nowhere. And then we will make our way to the Citadel of Trials. A little downside of the airship is that you can't park it anywhere. It does need to land on a plain grass tile, and that one particular tile right there is unfortunately the only plain grass tile that is close to the Citadel. So that sandworm encounter that GreenCleric just ran from was one of the reasons why he took that safety save there. It is a very, very low chance of happening, but you have to get a 1 in 64 encounter with the sandworm. If it ambushes you and decides to do its earthquake spell, that is a potential party wipe there because earthquake is an instant kill skill. And and that is something that has happened. It only needs to happen to you once if you're a runner of this game, but it's something that you don't want to see. And GreenCleric, because he just has to finish in order to log the win on for this game 3, I don't blame him for taking out any additional safety. So that little teleporter maze is intended to be confusing, but if you want a easy tip, it's always the bottommost teleporter. If you're given a choice between multiple teleporters, will take you to your destination. GreenCleric getting this unrunnable encounter with Minotaur zombies, and we'll just using a combination of the Mage's Staff and the Judgment Staff to take them out. But with that, GreenCleric has made his way through the teleporter maze, and now we'll on the final floor of the Citadel. So we have this trap tile of nightmares that we will eventually get through. That is a 1 in 64 bonus dragon zombie encounter for GreenCleric. So GreenCleric is between these two dragon zombies, the force dragon zombie encounter at the end, and the Minotaur zombies. I'm pretty sure he's good for level 19. So this Minotaur, this Nightmare trap tile, we do have to step over twice. It is up to the runner's preference whether they want to try to run from this or if they want to kill these things. Even with the Black Garbs equipped, with the Black Garbs giving us plus 10 agility over the Thieves' Arm, that's plus 5. Nightmares can be a little bit difficult to run from. Cleric is opting to run from them because he has all the XP he needs. Other runners will just choose to kill them just for the experience there. But we had to step over that twice because we need to grab that chest, which had the healing staff, which we need to glitch equipment into our party later on for the Lordly Robes. GreenCleric, for his route, will also grab one more chest while he's here. He's going to detour to grab the gauntlets in this chest. This is now how he will cast Thundara magic, as well as it will glitch later on into the Golden Staff later on at the end game. And this is the item that we needed to come here for the Rat's Tail. So this is the item that that allows us to class change. And then one more brief note about elemental magic. There, if you recall, back in Cornelia Castle, GreenCleric picked up a Mithril knife while he was at Crescent Lake and doing the equipment glitching to put the Black Garb and the Lust Dagger into his mages. He also added a Black Robe, not to be confused with the Black Garb, into his inventory. The Black Robe, when used as an item, casts Blizzara. So between the Mage's Staff, the Gauntlets, and the Black Robe, GreenCleric now has access to Fire, Thundara, and Blizzara for his White Mage. You might be wondering, why do we go out of our way to get these lower tier magics if we have access to the Flare spell? The Flare spell, while very, very strong, is a very, very long casting animation. It's about 7 to 8 seconds, I want to say. Fire, Thundara, Blizzara comparatively save about 2 to 3 seconds in animation, depending on the spell there. And if you have to cast a lot of these spells over the course of the run, that does add up to minutes saved. So for the sake of cutting down on time lost through animations, we use those lower level spells, especially because we have access to the equipment glitch and we can glitch all of this equipment that gives us free stats onto our party. So with that rat tail in hand, we are now going to talk to Bahamut here. We have shown our courage and bravery by obtaining a severed rat tail from a chest. And so Bahamut rewards us with the class change, which will allow us to... Well, for the main benefit for the speedrun, it allows us to learn spells that we could not learn if we weren't class change. In casual settings, their class change more has benefits on allowing you to equip greater access of equipment, as well as some minor alterations to your stats per level. Not the most significant one for us for the speedrun, though, is the magics there, because with the equipment glitch, we can more or less already put whatever we want on any particular party member. So having greater access to equipment isn't all that beneficial to us. But with class change done now, GreenCleric has to do a little bit more detouring here, so we're going to make our way to this little desert caravan. And we are going to buy a bottled fairy. That bottled fairy is a quest progression item we need in order to access Sea Shrine later. As well as we're going to pick up some Giant's Tonics. So these Giant's Tonics will be used for the Chaos fight. They give you a temporary plus 200 to your maximum HP for the duration of one battle. And then with that bottled fairy in hand, we are detouring to the town of Gaia. We free that bottled fairy at the town of Gaia. We're going to make our way all the way to the very, very back side of town. And with that, we will be able to get the Oxyel, which is what we need in order to access the Sea Shrine later, because the Oxyel allows us to, in effect, breathe underwater. So with that Oxyel obtained, we have no need to come back to Gaia anymore. And now finally after we have attained our airship, done our class change, gotten the Oxyel, we will finally do as we were instructed when we received the canoe, go to the volcano, and beat the Fiend of Fire Marilith. So the volcano is a very, very trivial dungeon for the speed run. Casually, you might try to, avoid stepping on all of this lava tiles because, oh no, the lava tiles deal damage to you every single time you step on them. My precious HP. For the speed run, we want to step on as much lava as possible because lava does not have a chance to generate an encounter. So we are able to just beeline our way through this dungeon very, very quickly. And so Cleric taking the opportunity to heal up because since we're stepping on all this lava tile, we are, lowering our HP over time there. If we happen to chance into an encounter on one of the tiles that we can get an encounter on, we might have a bad time with an ambush, or if our HP is really, really low, it might end up in some scary times. So just playing it safe for this volcano. But Cleric has now made his way to the Fiend's Floor just like that. I'm going to heal up our party with all these potions, and then we are going to fight Marilith. So Marilith, not terribly difficult. We're just going to swing Barbarian Swords. The scariest thing she could do is the Fire spell, but didn't do that on her one turn that she got. Able to just take out Marilith right there. Barbarian Sword OP. And with that, we have restored light to our second crystal, the Crystal of Fire. I'm not actually sure if these crystals have elements to it. I'm just naming them just so that I know which one from which. It sounds cooler than saying yellow crystal, red crystal, blue crystal, green crystal. And then one other thing to touch upon, that these little cutscenes that we get after each of the fiends, these are showing us that the bonus dungeons have been unlocked after we've beaten the respective fiends. We won't actually be going into the bonus dungeons in this speed run. Even though there's a lot of goodies in them, they would waste more time than it would save to go and get them. And we have the equipment glitch. We can just get a good chunk of them naturally through glitching them. So a brief detour back to the town of Elfheim now. We are going to grab haste for our party. The ninja, unfortunately, was not able to make level 15 in time. That's all right. The important thing is that at least the black mage gets that haste spell. Haste, if for this particular version of Final Fantasy, doesn't increase your ability to go earlier in the turn order. Haste doubles the amount of attacks you do per round. And now back in Melmond, we are going to grab Hilara and teleport, and this is what we needed level 19 for. So Hilara will be our main way of healing our party for the rest of the game. Teleport will save us some time in backtracking in a couple of these upcoming dungeons. We are now going to make our way to the town of Onrock. GreenCleric parking his airship down here. This is GreenCleric, I believe, does play a lot of Final Fantasy 1 NES randomizer. That particular parking spot is more akin to where you would park it in NES, because where you would park it in remakes is actually a lot further to the left than it is in the NES version. So that just is, I believe, is just where his muscle memory is at for that there. But now in the town of Onrock, we are going to make our way to this mermaid that is guarding this little barrel. Submarine barrel. It's a barrel submarine, I guess. And then with the Oxio, we are able to enter the barrel, assuming we can beat the menu boss. For whatever reason, in the PSP version of this game, that menu defaults to no. In every other version, including PS1 and GBA, the default for that menu is yes, and in NES you can literally just walk onto the thing, so I'm not sure why, particularly for PSP, they decided to switch up that menu. But here in the Sea Shrine, we have to technically go through this area twice, because we need to go up to the 5th floor in order to grab some things, and then we need to go back down to the 1st floor in order to fight Kraken. Alright, so running into Ghost here. This is one of 3 unrunnable encounters that are in the Sea Shrine, and this will be the predominant way we will be slowed down here in the Sea Shrine here, just because overall, depending on which floor you're on, you have maybe a 50% chance of running into an unrunnable encounter. It's at least it's better than 1 in 3 and less than 1/2, so most of the time, if you get an encounter, it will usually be an unrunnable one. That's why the Sea Shrine is not a terribly great place. But GreenCleric able to make it to the 5th floor of the Sea Shrine. This 5th floor is a passive floor because this is where the mermaids reside in safety, hiding from Kraken, who's at the bottom. We need to make our way all the way around to the back, grab this particular chest, and grab the Rosetta Stone. So this Rosetta Stone is an item we need to progress later on into the game to access the final dungeon. It is part of a 2-step chain in order to get the chime. And then using that teleport spell just to save ourselves a couple of minutes on backtracking. We're back on the 3rd floor now, and we will now descend into the Sea Shrine to go kick Kraken's butt. So nothing too terrible right now. And of course, as I say that, So this Sagan, Prince Sagan Chief encounter is the another one of those 3 unrunnable encounters that I mentioned. GreenCleric will just have to use those gauntlets to cast that Thundara spell to get rid of them. Ambushes aren't terribly helpful either. Okay, so on this trip through the 2nd floor of the Sea Shrine, Cleric will have to make a little bit of a detour. So he's going to go onto the left-hand side of this floor to a particular room with a particular chest in it. We are going to grab the light axe out of this chest. Cleric has opted to not step around the trap tile. So this chest actually is guarded by a trap tile, which is this little trio of sea monsters. On the left-hand side of it and right below it there. If you go to the right-hand side of it, because of how they redrew the maps, that actually doesn't have a trap tile there, because in NES that was a wall you couldn't step on, but in remakes you can step there. But anyway, with that light axe in hand now, we are going to glitch Survival Vest onto most of our party, particularly the melee characters. Oh, that's right, White Mage route, so... we're going to put Survival Vest onto 3 of our party members, and then we're going to put a mixture of Survival Vest and Lordly Robes onto the White Mage. So, the Lordly Robes give us a flat plus 15 to our intelligence, which is good for the White Mage. It allows her to ensure that she can, hit really hard with her spells, as well as heal a lot of HP with her healing magic. And then with the Survival Vest, as you'll notice, has kind of been a trend of when we upgrade our armor, we're kind of increasing our agility. The Survival Vests give you a flat plus 15 to your agility, and we stack pretty much 3 onto each of our party members, with the exception of the White Mage. So we have plus 45 to our agility. We go very, very early in the turn order. We are very, very likely to run away from fights, and we will do a lot of attacks per round for fights we don't run away from. This is a gratuitous amount of Ghost. A plethora of Poltergeists. But with that light axe in hand and let's survive us on, we are 99.9% of the way decked out for what we need for the Chaos fight. Actually, well, for White... Okay, so we have 2 more instances of equipment glitch after this for White Mage route, because we have golden stuff at the very, very end. So that, by and large, we're not going to be picking up any more equipment for throughout the remainder of this one. Just a couple of more things. Well, actually, 1 more thing. And then everything else will just be quest progression and making our way through dungeons as quick as possible in order to beat the fiends. Alright, so now we are at Kraken. Kraken in vanilla play is normally supposed to be very, very scary because of his physical attacks. Being an octopus, he gets 8 attacks per round. We have glitched so much agility gear onto our survival vest that not only is he only doing 1 damage per attack, sometimes he doesn't even get all 8 attacks because of our agility is so high. And, sometimes we just roll so high he doesn't even get a turn. So Kraken, unfortunately, in the PSP version, goes from being one of the more scary fiends you could fight in Final Fantasy 1 to being a non-issue. He is a, non-threat. The worst thing he could do is cast Thundara, and his AI script is not programmed to cast Thundara often. He's more inclined to do physical attacks because of his 8 attacks per round. And even then, the Thundara doesn't do a whole lot of damage to us. But that is now 3 crystals lit. We have 1 more crystal ahead of us, but we have a little bit of a hop, skip, and a jump to make our way there. All right, so we are going to row our canoe up north just a short while ways. We are going to make our way to the waterfall cavern. We have to grab a couple of things in this waterfall cavern to not only gear up our party, but also make sure that we can access the final dungeon. So the waterfall cavern, despite the friendly passive music that you hear in friendly caves here, does actually have encounter chances in here. Not only that, I believe it does have pretty much the highest encounter rate in all cave dungeons in the game. So this is not a particularly liked place. The fortunate part is there's not anything too dangerous we have to worry about with the amount of gear equipment we have. If we can keep seeing these clay golems, that would actually be amazing. Clay golems are super slow, and they are like the easiest things to run from with all of our agility gear. Mummies can put you to sleep, but they're not particularly dangerous. Almost to our destination here. We need to access that little treasure room that's in front of us. Oh, okay. Commentator's cursing into a mummy ambush. I will take blame for that one. Alright, so we're going to step on a trap tile here. We are going to run from it. Very, very nice preemptive. Robot's in a good position, so we are going to talk to this robot, get the warp cube, and then GreenCleric also very, very quickly grabbed a ribbon from that chest there. So this ribbon that we have in our inventory now is going to be one of the rare instances, the only instance actually, of a duplication with the equipment glitch. So we are going to take that ribbon in our inventory and we are going to glitch it into a Giganta Axe onto our warrior or our ninja. Once we have the Giganta, with that Gigantax in our inventory, we are going to then glitch that Gigantax back into additional ribbons. So we only need to go out of our way to pick up the one ribbon in this version of the speedrun, and we don't have to detour to pick up the other ones as we would in glitches, which is a benefit because in vanilla there's only 3 ribbons in the base game. They added a 4th one to the remake dungeons in GBA and PSP, but that's quite a ways away. You have to go through like 10 floors of the Hellfire Chasm in order to grab it. It's not a convenient thing to go and grab. So fortunate with the equipment glitch, we can just glitch as many as we want into our inventory. Oh, and one other particular thing of note I should mention actually, if you've astute viewers among you might have noticed that we've been very careful about glitching things into our shield slot up to this point. The reason for this is that because we're with the equipment glitch, we can put things that are not shields into the shield slots. There's not necessarily going to be an animation associated with that because, again, they're not shields in the shield slot. So if you were to put something that is not a shield into the shield slot and that item did not have an animation and the game tried to block an attack for you, you would hardlock and crash your game. Fortunately, though, a lot of this late game items that we've been picking up, the Lordly Robes, the Survivor Vest, the Ribbon, these are all safe to put into the shield slot there. So if later on, if you see our characters blocking by swinging a sword, don't worry, it's not your Twitch browser glitching out. It's not your YouTube video bugging out. It's just the game doing what it thinks it's supposed to be doing when we're glitching it. Okay, so another instance of we have to park our airship very, very far away. We have to walk through all of this grass forest tiles to make our way to the town of Lufenia. That's all the way down south at the bottom of this peninsula. So we'll see what kind of encounter luck we get. Only a couple of wolf encounters so far. That's actually probably like the best thing to see. With our agility gear, we can usually outspeed the wolves before they can do any ice storm attacks or anything like that to slow us down. Hill Gyguses are also fine. Alright, so we're now in the town of Lufenia. So with that warp cube in hand, and we were able to, once we talk to one of the little NPCs here, talk to this NPC, he gives us the chime. So with that chime, we are able to access the Mirage Tower, and then with the warp cube we got from the waterfall, within the once we're in the Mirage Tower, we can access the Flying Fortress, and once we're in the Flying Fortress, we will have access to the the final fiend, Tiamat. So now just making our way back to the airship. And we will close out the rest of this endgame here. Minotaur Zombie Troll is an unrunnable encounter, so we do just have to kill them. Fortunate part being is that Minotaur Zombies are very, very good for EXP. One of the things Cleric will be monitoring as well is the HP on his Ninja and his Black Mage particularly. Yep, Bahamut and Tiamat are in FF1. Final Fantasy 1 actually, when it originally came out, did draw a lot of inspiration from Final Fantasy 1. It, if you look at it, it doesn't have a lot of development on plot. That was more Final Fantasy 2's thing for a plot and a story. Japanese Final Fantasy 2, not Final Fantasy 4, which we got as Final Fantasy 2 in North America. And actually, even the Evil Eye was actually originally a beholder in the original Famicom release of this, but to avoid any potential lawsuits, I believe they altered the sprite to be not as overtly a beholder. So here in the Mirage Tower, there's nothing we're going to really fight, with the exception of a 1 in 64 encounter. We're just trying to climb our way up to the 3rd floor of the Mirage Tower as quickly as we can. So we have a Trap Tower here. This is a Blue Dragon boss. And that is a dead Blue Dragon. Okay, and then with the Warp Cube, we can teleport on this tile, and we are now in the Flying Fortress. So, again, nothing we really have to pick up here. Mirage Tower and Flying Fortress are, in casual play, very, very good places to go to because there's a lot of good equipment and armor you could pick up while we're here. We don't really need it for this speed run, though, because we have glitched everything we need for our party. We're just going to make our way as quickly as possible to Tiamat's floor. I think the only thing that we have to stop and fight is the Evil Eye, is the only unrunnable encounter that's in here. That is a one-step encounter into an Evil Eye. Commentator's Curse, what are we up to? 3? I'm counting at least 3 that I vocalized out loud. Okay, so we have the 4th floor after this, and then we have one more floor. So there is a particular 1 in 64 rare enemy that we can see on this upcoming 5th floor. So if you want to see a war mech, cross your fingers, start hoping. So Cleric taking the safety heal on the Bridge of Destiny just in case. Okay, that's an encounter. Those are block floods. That is not a war mech. Air elementals are also not a war mech. Okay, so GreenCleric has made it to Tiamat. We have maybe about 10 to 15 extra tiles of steps that we can take after the Tiamat fight, and we still can run into encounters. So we still might see a war mech yet, but again, only a 1 in 64 chance of an encounter here. Tiamat opting to physical, that's actually the best thing we can see from her, so that ensures that our Black Mage stays up. Neither of our mages at this point have ribbons on, so we will still be taking full damage from Fire, Ice, and Thunder Elemental skills and magics. So not seeing a Thunderbolt from Tiamat is very, very good to see. But with that, we have restored light to all 4 crystals now, and we are able to access the final dungeon. As soon as we get through one last cutscene. Well, not less, because we have one more after this because it's PSP. So unlocking the Whisperin Cove. Alright, so no Warmech today. He has dodged us once again. But with that, Cleric is going to make his way back to his airship now. And we will sail to the Chaos Shrine. Okay, so in the Chaos Shrine, we have one more additional cutscene here. This is a additional scene that was added to the PSP version to show you the Labyrinth of Time bonus dungeon that was added to the PSP version. So this guy is banging his head against his wall, and then a door magically appears. And then if you've never played Final Fantasy 1 before, you might think that's where the final dungeon is, and then you would have entered a world of pain. You're actually supposed to go back into the chamber that you initially fought Garland in, talk through this little black orb, which will then, with the light restored to the crystals, unlock a time portal which will allow us to go 2,000 years into the past. It's Final Fantasy 1, don't question the plot, or lack thereof. Okay, so in the Chaos Shrine, taking an additional safety save. These first few floors of the Chaos Shrine are the scariest. There is a lot of dragons that we don't want to see. Purple worms are unrunnable encounters and will slow us down, but they're not liable to kill us. That's one floor. Okay, we're on the third floor now. There are the dragons we can see on this floor are green dragons, which are unrunnable. And they have an AoE Earth attack. They're not nearly as scary as the one we could have potentially saw on the first floor, but we do have to go through the floors a couple more times before for this. Okay, that's a green dragon. That's fine. Alright, and now this is the Death Eye. This is an upgraded Evil Eye, and it's now dead. And then with the Death Eye beaten, we finally used that loot that we got way at the beginning of the game from Princess Sarah. This is why they added a cutscene to call you back, because they wanted to ensure that there was no possible way you could forget this, because in NES, there is no real indication that you had to talk to the princess, save for one NPC that's hidden somewhere in Cornelia Castle, I think. There's nothing that's greatly obvious that tells you you're supposed to grab that from her. So we have to backtrack through these floors a couple times. These dragon zombies actually are also good because not only do they give EXP, they have a chance of dropping a Mega Elixir, which can help for some healing. But nothing that we necessarily need because we have the White Mage and her boosted intelligence. One last trip through the first floor of the Chaos Shrine. Okay, those are white dragons. Cleric is opting to take a safer strat of queuing up a Judgment Staff. That Ice Storm ability is the reason why these white dragons are so scary, is because if all of them decide to do it, that could very, very easily spell a party wipe. So Cleric taking the safety just to make sure that he can finish out his run. Purple worms, again, not terrifying. One more encounter. That is a white dragon ambush. That is not what we want to see. I would like to see more of those physical attacks. That's actually very, very good for white dragon physical on an ambush and first turn run. So that is a good thing to see. So we have dodged the scariest floors. of the Chaos Shrine, and we are now on the basement floors, which are all refight floors. So these are all themed after each of the 4 fiends. This is the Earth-themed floor where we will fight Lich at the end of it. We just have to loop all the way around this entire circumference of floor. Cleric has got I think he's got full HP, so I think he should be okay to actually just go into the Lich fight. We'll see what he decides to do. Okay, so we'll be still opting to take the safety save, just in case. But with his Knight and his White Mage's HP, they should be good to survive a flare from Lich. Lich 2 is very, very scary because instead of Blizzard, he has flare now. Got the good turn order with the haste going off on the Ninja. The Knight, unfortunately, low rolled, so only got 25 out of the 2800 HP needed to kill the Lich. That is the Ninja and the Black Mage down, but that's alright. The Knight is able to just finish out the job by himself. Okay, so we're going to heal up our party really quickly, and then we are now on B2. This is the fire-themed floor. We will fight Merilith at the end of this. Nothing terribly dangerous on this floor. The only thing we don't want to see is, I believe, a 3 in 64 fire elemental unrunnable. Because the 1 in 64 red dragons aren't terribly scary on their own. We have ribbons on most of our party, which will dodge us the which will reduce the amount of fire damage we take. Seen a lot of fire lizards. If you're fans of the NES version, that would be a lot of Agamafax. That's a lot of fire lizards. Alright, and we are now at Merilith. And with that, Merilith is down. So we are now on the sea-themed floor. Cleric starting off the floor a little rough with this ambush. But this is Kraken's floor, and again, Kraken is very, very trivial from other versions of this game because we have just so much armor on. Mostly just want to get to him as quickly as we can. Water elementals, which we previously could have seen in the Sea Shrine, but were the one unrunnable we didn't see, are still unrunnable here, but more common to see them on this floor of the Chaos Shrine. They are still unrunnable, so we just have to Blizzard them down. Yes, water elementals counterintuitively, excuse me, are actually weak to ice magic in this game, not thunder magic. So all these water elementals are making up for the fact that they did not have an appearance in the Sea Shrine, it looks like. So here's Kraken 2 for Cleric now. Just going to swing this Barbarian Sword a couple of times. That's a Thundara, but that's again not going to do a whole lot. And that is a dead Kraken. All right, so we are now on Tiamat's floor, very, very short floor. I'm just going to take a brief moment to heal up our party. And now Tiamat to refight. So Tiamat has 5,500 HP for this one. Usually will be maybe a 3 or 4 round fight. A little bit bad turn order there with the haste not going off, but that's all right. Scourge is fine. Our mages do have high magic resistance at this point for their levels, so they're not likely to fall to it. And then our warrior and our ninja have ribbons. And then with those haste applied, so should be one more round. Just got to get one more swing of that barbarian sword. That's a nice crit. All right, and that is Tiamat down. With that, we have beaten all 4 of the fiendry fights, and we can make our way to the final boss. Okay, so on the Chaos Shrine 5th floor, we don't have to worry about encounters, so Cleric can take whatever time he needs to ensure his party is all set up. Got a little bit of equipment menuing that we need to do at this last moment here, so we are going to put the Golden Staff onto the White Mage for Cleric, which will boost the White Mage's intelligence by 20, and additionally we are going to take all of the agility gear off of the mage in order to ensure that she goes last in the turn order. Additionally, we're going to put a barbarian sword and a ribbon onto our black mage. Cleric is going to take a safety save to ensure that he can finish out this fight just in case. The first turn of this chaos fight is the scariest because this is going to be our setup turn. But with that, we will now start our final fight of this game. Okay, so for this first turn, we need to do a little bit of setup. So we're going to throw Giant's Tonics onto our Black Mage and to our Ninja, just because they unfortunately have not hit the EXP thresholds that they need to. The Ninja could, what's it called? If you're being a little bit risky for a PB attempt, you could try it, but that is not something you want to do in this race scenario. And then just like that, the White Mage goes last in the turn order. This is why we took off all her agility gear, just so that we ensure that right after Chaos has already done his damage for the round, we can heal up our party to full, top ourselves off. That Blaze skill is an AoE skill. It's one of there's different things that Chaos can do. He can either do physical attacks, he can do skills, or he can do spell. Ideally, we'd like to see physical attacks onto either our knight or our ninja, because those have the fastest animation. Skills aren't bad, they're just very lengthy in terms of animation, but we don't want to see spells. Spells progress Lich down his spell list, which will put him closer to his 4th spell, Cure Raja, which will heal him for about half of his HP, and then his 8th spell is Flare, and by that point we're more or less dead. But after those Giant Tonics down, now Cleric is dropping haste onto his ninja, then his warrior, and then the Black Mage is now going to haste himself. So we are pretty much set up at this point. Oh, Lich knew who the most important party member was, going for that White Mage. Or not Lich, excuse me, Chaos. But at this point now, we are just in hold X to win, and it is just a damage race to take Chaos down before he kills one of our party members. We do seen a lot of these physicals. This is very, very good. Keep doing the physicals. Physicals are fast. Good. Should be maybe 1 or 2 more rounds of combat after this. Just swinging those barbarian swords, and that is time for GreenCleric. Finishing with an official SRL time of 1 hour 29 minutes 9 seconds, 129.05 RTA. GG, well done. So with that, GreenCleric will go up to two games, one in this best of 5 series, and so going into game 4, we'll have the advantage for match point. He will just need to win one more game to finish out this best of 3 series. Sawneyrath will have to win game 4 to force game 5 between our two runners there. 129 RTA though is a very, very respectable time. Very, very fast in a race sitting too, because we take a lot of safety strats out of the way there. So one moment there. Let me see if GreenCleric would like to come in for a post-game interview. Oh, never mind. All right, let us now welcome in GreenCleric to the post-game.
Yep, I'm here.
GG to you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I must say your early game was I actually, that's one thing I noticed across all of your games thus far. Actually, as your early game is actually fairly consistent. I noticed that you get fairly good encounter luck overall up until maybe about the Earth Cave is maybe when things start going sideways on that one there. But...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. Early game, to me, it's still important, because even though a lot of the RNG, a lot of the tricky stuff's going to come later on, early game, I mean, if you're going to grab an extra 30 seconds, extra minute somewhere, that's the easiest place to do it.
Right.
I mean, but looking at the whole run, though, I mean, you know, aside from, I mean, Endgame wasn't the best, Chaos wasn't the best, but I mean, other than that, I mean, I really couldn't find too much to fault with that run. I mean, even Earth Cave, I mean, first run through Earth Cave was great, second one not so much, but I mean, that was just solid across the board. I mean, it's unfortunate that Sawney kind of... So what exactly happened? It was Lich?
So Sawney just all the way up to even actually just as far back as March was just kind of getting hammered with encounters that were kind of just slowing him down here and there, and then really the final nail in the coffin was Lich. He had to go. He risked not safety saving to try and make up a little bit of time there. So yeah, like even Earth Cave B3, he didn't save on either chip. He was just banking on, you know, like not getting encounters, but the game just kind of kept throwing. It wasn't even like you know, he got like a lot of like the unrunnable Pisca demons, or like, you know, it was like he got just mostly like ambushes and a lot of things there. Like he dodged a couple of near paralocks, but it's not the usual things that you think would slow you down, like a paralock, unrunnable cockatrice thing there. It was just kind of quantity of encounters that were really slowing him down at that point.
Jeez, because I mean, even if you're gonna YOLO it through Earth Cave, I mean, at the very least, I would still take the safety save before Lich, only because that is going to make or break the run. I mean, if it's Blazara, I mean, you're done. I mean, that's all there is to it. Yeah, and I mean, the one thing I'm happy about is at least, like, the run I put together. I mean, I'm guessing, given how it was going for him, it would have been really tough, although you never know. But I mean, taking a look at it, I mean, you know, to me, that's still the one point that you do safety save. But I mean, you know, I mean, it is what it is. That was one thing I actually found in my run. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, the only thing I was worried about was Black Mage HP. I mean, other than that, like, even the encounters, like, that was a really good run as far as dangerous encounters went, because I really don't remember any aside from the one White Dragon ambush, and even that was, okay, attack. Okay, that's a free turn.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't fault the decision. I understand that there's just come points where, you know, you have to risk it for the biscuit as it were in order to go for the win. But yeah, Yeah, and like and like you said, anything can happen as far as the later games. But yeah, I understand like mentally, it can be very very draining, especially like the early game portion. I think is the most mentally taxing. If you can get past Lich, you can kind of like relax a little bit up until maybe like the Chaos Shrine.
I agree, because I mean, there's a lot more RNG that happens there, so I can understand Lich. I can understand if you feel you're really behind, if you feel you're already 2-3 minutes behind at that point. You might be already a little on tilt. You're wondering, because now you're not thinking, I can make up the time. You're thinking, well, I need my opponent to mess up or do something to try make back that time, or him to get some really bad luck or something like that. So I can understand that, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, a 3-minute gap at Lich, I think, as Sonny mentioned, is that when he got to Lich compared to when you finished it. Compared to it is not unrecoverable, but it's certainly a very difficult spot to be in for any racer of this game. So again, I don't fault the decision, but yeah, it is a rough spot in, and there's only so much you can do at that point.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but again, congratulations on your run. I must say that like pacing wise, it was looking very very nice. I did see like I think you were. I wanted to say you were under 110 coming out of Kraken, which I know is very, very good pacing for this run. You had like a low, I think it was like a low 51 on Clash Change, which is really above average pace for that after Citadel. So I was kind of looking at it, and I think were it not for like a couple of encounters at Chaos Shrine, because you did see you dodged White Dragons for the most part up until the last floor there, but you kind of counterbalanced it with getting unfortunately unrunnable encounters there. So I was looking at this and going like, this might be like a 120. This might be like a 127 high 126 if he gets really lucky. So
yeah, looking at pace, I mean, at Lich it was 127 pace, but then it just kinda. But I mean, at that point, based on the run, you're basically just racing against that anyways. You're just trying to get that time, so pressure's off a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it is what 129, especially in tournament race setting. I mean, you're not going to turn that down. I mean, even if Sawney hadn't, even if Sawney hadn't forfeit, I mean, I think if that was just going to be a straight out race, I think that probably would have done it. Although we've seen some really close races with a lot lower times than this.
Yeah, we have. Friendly
overall,
reminder: the fastest loss in this tournament is a 126.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, even though maybe it's not the way you want to take the second win in the set, I mean, a really good run. I mean, I just, one more of those and.
Yep. Yeah. So, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, I mean, I think Sawney's gonna come in more focused tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow, same time, 9:00. It's gonna be game 4, and he was saying the other day, this is gonna go 5 games. I mean, we'll see. I mean, but I think it's gonna be a really good race tomorrow.
Yeah. No. This entire series thus far, just analyzing it just from going just at every single moment of the run, not just basing it on the result, but just like looking at him overall, has been very very close between you. There's up until like the very end, you can't really count anybody out there. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how this race goes, and I know, and basically, the better you or Sawney perform, the more you're making Yoshi sweat. So that'll put some pressure on him for the finals.
Well, it's either that or he's just sitting back going, yeah, let them play 5, let them destroy each other. I mean, it's one or the other. I mean, but no, I mean, I'm not looking past that. I mean, first off, try to get it done tomorrow night.
Yep, that's good there. So again, congratulations on your win there. Best of luck to you in Game 4. Best of luck to Sawney in Game 4 as well.
Yep, thanks.
So with that, that will wrap up for the day. Thank you to everyone that tuned in and joined us for this race today here. So the game 4 between our runners, GreenCleric and Sawneyrath11, is scheduled for tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern. So it will start the same time as today's match did there. That will either be the last game, or Sony will force a game 5, and I would really like to see a game 5 from our 2 runners there. So best of luck to both of them. You know, shoutouts from me here. Shoutouts to our runners for participating in this tournament. Thank you to the FF1 community for particularly the tournament organizers, you know, for setting this up for another year. Thank you, Speed Gaming, for hosting the restream, all the staff and volunteers right behind the scenes, running to make sure that we can get this, race going up and smooth, keeping everything running smoothly. And with that, I think that'll do it for us. So thanks for watching, and we hope to see you guys on another race.